30. I'm Keith Shaw. I'm acting as the chair for this, although I'm a chairperson for the policy and personnel. Dr. Trask is not able to be here, so Mr. Hanson, president of the board, asked me to chair this committee meeting. So I'll call this meeting to order. Policy and Personnel Board of Education, Tuesday, May 6th at 3:30 p.m. First thing on the agenda is proposal rationale for an additional youth apprentice position. That is found in your board book under the first agenda item. So we'll start talking about that, and I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Tennis and Ms. Eichmann, I guess, for clarification for the youth apprenticeship additional programs.
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
Or Mike,
Yeah,
thank
you're
you.
right, this one. So we have an EL assistant who will be on medical leave. She's on medical leave the rest of this year and has requested a leave of absence for next year. And we've granted that leave of absence. When interviewing for previous YA positions, there were a couple of students from Lincoln High School that were proficient in Spanish, outstanding with the language. And given if this position, these two positions are approved, move forward to the board and approved next week, we would employ those two students in that situation, because they could help us out tremendously next year in that situation. Cost wise, you can see on here, the wages for the person that's on a leave is about $33,000. The cost for the two students is about $14,700. So there's actually no additional cost to the district. And if the employee is fortunate, let's just say to return, which would be wonderful. Let's just say it's about halfway through the year. Well, the long and the short then is that we would figure it out, but we would have just some slight additional cost. But the money we're going to save from first semester would offset that. I kind of estimate maybe $2,000 to $3,000 total cost if she were fortunate enough to return. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we're looking at that leave of absence. We're looking at offsetting that. No cost to the district. I think it's an outstanding plan. Heidi Schroeder has put it together. Questions, thoughts?
This position, this youth apprentice, is not done an ongoing year after year after year. This is for 1 year only, waiting to see if the staff hopefully can return to the position. So it's a 1-year position.
Basically, all of our EL positions are 1-year positions.
We'll bring the slate of EL or YA to you every year as
Right.
sort of so they're just 1-year positions.
But like some employees we have a youth apprentice every year. This is not going to be that kind of program. It's just.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions about the youth apprentice for the EL assistant? You want to take this as a motion for both of these or a motion at one at a time?
I think we could do both. I think we could do both.
All right, so let's take a look at the next one, EL position or YA position for speech and language.
Yeah, I'm gonna defer to Katie for that one.
So again, through the YA interview process that Bonnie Przeniak from Lincoln High School runs, which is just an awesome system, we had a young lady who is a student with a disability who relies on a communication device to communicate. She's nonverbal. She is incredibly versed in the utilization of her communication device and is passionate about helping other kids improve their ability to utilize their augmentative assistive communication device and help teachers implement that in the classroom. She has limited stamina, so we'd have a few hours a week that we would be able to have her support students in the classroom, but just an exciting work experience opportunity for her. She did a great job in her speech and language pathology YA position interview, and I think it could be a great experience for some of our younger students who are just learning to use communication devices, to have a high school student who, is able to do an interview process and engage in all sorts of things in the community and just have that opportunity for kids. So pretty minimal cost to the district again, as far as her support would go.
You've already had a chance to read that job description or proposal. Any questions?
It's a great opportunity.
Great opportunity.
for kids.
All right, so we'll take this as a full motion, proposal for the additional youth apprentice, both in the speech and language and in the YA position for EL. I need a motion to move on that.
Move.
I need a second. Thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor of bringing it to the board, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, we'll go to agenda, central office relocation, central office. Administrative restructuring. That I will turn over to Mr. Tennis.
Yeah. Thank you. You received a memo from me dated May 1st. One of the things that we've been doing across the district this year is taking a look at our staffing levels, where we're at with things, trying to be as efficient as possible. And in the era of declining enrollment and needing to do some adjustments to our professional staff, our team really thinks it's critical that we also look in the mirror and take a look at what we're also doing here. So the memo lays things out, what happens, but essentially what we would be doing is as I'm assuming the role of superintendent, we would have essentially, we're gonna move down one director position. So in this move, what we would be doing is creating new titles, first of all, for curriculum instruction. It would be Director of Elementary Education and then Director of Secondary Education and Student Services. The elementary director position would be assumed by Heidi Schroederus, the secondary and student services by Katie Eichmann. And those two would serve in that capacity. Now, that means we would be not replacing the Director of Student Services. However, what we're looking to do is to support Katie in the oversight of that special education side of things. We would look to hire a special education coordinator versus a director position, which would have some yielded savings. In addition, I think it's important to note that we're also looking at how our support staff is structured. We recently had a retirement out of the Student Services Office. We have decided to, or Katie has recommended that we are able to combine some efforts of our support staff in that area to allow us to not have to replace that position moving forward. Similarly, in the business office, we saw a resignation recently, and we were taking a look at roles and responsibilities. We condensed some responsibilities into the support area there as well to not replace that position. So the bottom line on these things is I wanted to show the last couple of years in terms of costs. So if you take a look at 2023, total compensation for district administrator, assistant district administrator, and directors was $1.352 million. In 24-25, minus the assistant district administrator, we had a grand total of $1,097,000. This year, in the administrative costs, another reduction of $20,000. So in the 2 years, we've seen a significant decrease in administrative costs from central office. In addition to that, we're also looking at adjusting some services in our, we currently have a communications contract with CESA 6. We won't be renewing that contract for next year. This year, the contract included essentially a 4-day support in communications from CESA 6. The cost savings on not renewing that will be $108,160. It's not that we're not, please don't think we're not going to focus on communication. We do think it's very important, but we also in this process are elevating some of our assistants who are also working with a lot of skills and abilities in some areas that we want to let them spread their wings a little bit. So all encompassed in this include the cost adjustments in salaries that are anticipated. In terms of the director positions and the differences there, we have 2 open director positions. So we're not ready to set those salaries yet because we need to maintain internal equity. Once those positions are filled, we will be able to do that and get back to you. Essentially, what we're looking for today is approval of the recommendation to restructure as well as moving forward without the 2 support staff and our CESA 6 contract to be done.
So let me ask you, in March of last year with the CESA 6 contract, in March of last year, CESA 6 was paid, I think, $85,000 for their contract to work with this district. And then just before the new board came in, Lisa's contract was moved to $108,000. So we, by a district, in order to break that contract, had to give 180 days. Is that contract?
It's just a 1-year term. All we have to do is just let them know we're not interested in continuing. That's only if you
Okay,
want
so
to
we're not at
terminate.
any penalty in
Correct.
breaking that contract.
That clause in the contract was only if we terminated during the term of the contract.
Okay.
So if we wanted to decide at, let's say we were looking to end it early, we had to give that much notice
Okay,
prior to ending the contract.
so we're going to get that amount of service plus by going to an internal person in the
We'll have
district.
an internal process for this, yes.
And is that gonna be moved within, or are we gonna post for that position?
It's just moving responsibilities to existing employees.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So the current CESA 6 person wasn't full-time.
Not for our, no, so the way that works is, so essentially we contracted directly with CESA 6 to provide the service. You know, they could have sent us other, whoever, but Lisa had worked with our district for a number of years. Mr. Holzman used the service in a limited fashion on as needed sort of thing. If we do find that we need support in this area, we could explore a contracted service in that manner as well. When Mr. File took over, he increased the amount of time for the contract to be servicing the district in this area. And then in this year, he went with basically the full package of services.
Mary, you had questions? or-
Yeah, one quick question regarding the special ed coordinator. I assume you're going to be developing a job description for that. What license are you looking for that person to hold?
They wouldn't necessarily need to hold the Director of Pupil Services license.
Okay.
But I would say, our program support teachers are currently expected to have a master's degree and licenses in special education. So I think at minimum, we would ask for that and some leadership experience.
Just the wording oversight. I jumped to, it must be an administrator
Okay.
license, but you're clarifying for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that could, we could say,
Right.
no, just like, the principal licensure, something like that, some leadership licensure. Preferred, but maybe not.
Right.
I mean, relative to the license, I guess where my brain is going is that what's going to be really significant is the experiences that they bring to us. Whether it's internal or external relative to special ed land, special ed world, and what they've done and what levels they've been at, whatever, that type of stuff.
I couldn't agree more with what that person would be overseeing. I'm just thinking about Y staff.
I do think we'll attract a candidate pool of people who may have that licensure, like the director licensure, and maybe looking to get their feet wet in some sort of leadership opportunity.
And so you answered my next question, which was if the position would be posted.
Yes.
Thank you.
So if I'm understanding this correct, during the 23-24 school year, the superintendent's contract was $275,300. His assistant was $208,000, and the director's was $868,000. That was the 1.35 just in administrative salaries in those positions.
Correct, it doesn't include support staff.
So right now, even for the savings to the district compared to that year, we're saving approximately $270,766 just on the basis of that alone.
Correct.
And if I could point out one thing, Mr. Shaw. Total compensation, so we're talking about salary, total benefits,
Correct.
WRS, FICA, the whole 9 yards. Just-
Question, Katie, what is the difference gonna be between what this new person, special ed person does and what you're currently doing?
So currently, I'm supporting secondary curriculum and instruction and then all things student services with the support of my program supports, which that team of people is absolutely incredible and they've taken on a ton. But things that, in special education that are day-to-day tasks. So supporting IEP teams when they are potentially needing support from central office for meetings, dealing with DPI in relation to anything that comes up, special education report-wise or complaint-wise or those kinds of things. Meeting with various special education teams, meeting with the speech and language team, the occupational therapy team, physical therapy team, those kinds of things, DHH, VI, all of those kinds of teams. So it would be shifting that off of, I would still work very closely with that person and be a partnership and support, like be there to report on special ed things at board meetings and have that responsibility, but they would manage the day-to-day dealings of just the special education piece and the student services pieces that kind of live in both special education and regular education land, so school counselors, nurses, psychs, those would still stay under the student services or pupil services umbrella at large.
Thank you.
And if I could just add to that, it's really important to note with all of this that this is only possible because of the unique experiences and talents of the people that we have in our team. So I don't think I would dream up a structure that had secondary ed and student services if Katie wasn't going to do it, for example. She has the unique skill set to do this job and do it very well. The goal is that, as Katie said, some of those day-to-day things, like she'll be able to oversee, still be the liaison with the board, knowing the policies and how the calendar year goes in terms of, there's a lot of student services related items that need to annually come to the board. And just with her experience and all of that, it's just, we're very lucky to have the people that we do, is my point.
This is very similar to Sheboygan's model. This is pretty much how their central office operates for those divisions and in regular education. Any other questions of the restructuring? Any other questions? Mary?
Nope.
Biff? I need a motion to approve and the reason we have this is, I have to note that in the past, superintendents just automatically did this, which was breaking all sorts of board policy rules. So the superintendent cannot just arbitrarily make decisions on how the board is to be restructured by school policy. It has to be brought to a committee and then from the committee to the board for the restructuring. So that's why we need to do this rather than just allowing the superintendent to say, boom, this is going to happen. It needs to go through a committee in order to make that action take place. So I need a motion and a second to approve the recommendations, and then we can take it to the board.
I make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We will take this to the board.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, section 4. I have to apologize because I need to go back to the beginning. I have to click on my agenda, then I need to go all the way down again. I have not quite mastered this. May policies for introduction. I believe this goes to Mr. Nolt.
I should look at all these policies for introduction. I guess I would open it up, Lee, do you have anything to add to this, or do we receive?
Well, you'll see it in my
questions?
superintendent's report, but as just in the general update to policies, a year and change ago, the district was years behind in their policies. Between the support of Neola and Ruby in our CNI office. And the thing I wanted to point out was there was over 300 policies that needed to be updated. And that's like unheard of, right? So the system that was put together by Ruby's recommendation, but also to the support that the board gave in changing a rule, I want you to understand that if the rule wasn't changed in regards to first and second readings, this would not have been able to take place in this manner. I will tell you, as of May, in the policies that are on this slate, we will have updated nearly every policy that we have. There's only a handful remaining of the 300 and some odd. We've done 374 of them over the course of that time. So I just want to say thank you to Ruby, Neola's support, and the support of the board, because it really took the whole team to get us in the position where we are. And you'll see it in the report, but our intent is to now review all policies that we do not have on the books that Neola offers. So the directors and our team are going to be looking at those over the course of the next couple months. So what I would say is expect more slates, but there'll be new policies to us, not existing ones that we're amending. And so expect to see those in June, July, August, and September. And we have a goal of being completely caught up and then only have to do the updates at the end of our calendar year. So we'll have a New Year's celebration to be absent of Neola, the dozens of Neola policies a month. So shout out to Ruby and thank you for your support in changing that procedure so we were able to accomplish this.
There is a question or a change for being proposed to this committee to go to the board. It's on policy 1130. If you look in your board book, policy 1130, ethics and conflict of interest. If you look on that, proposed language has been presented by Mary Lofty-Blahnik. So Mary, would you like to explain in your addition to or correction of this policy?
Yes.
Do you all have a copy of that, I should ask? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Specifically, letter item B talks about employees shall not directly supervise a relative employed by the district or in a position contracted for by the district. And I am proposing to add 3 more verbs, that administrative employee should not be hiring, transferring, or promoting in addition to supervising. And that's just some past experience of mine shows that that's a good use of some verbs in that sentence. And then the second part, not just a relative, but also to further define that, also an individual with whom they have a personal relationship, to be included in that letter B.
The relative employed by the district or employed by contact by the district, that's the old language. You want to keep that in there, or and you're adding to whom has had a personal relationship?
Yep.
Meaning boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever?
Live-in partner.
How far can we take that, do you think?
Well, I think when you write a board policy, you somewhat leave it up here. So as you look to enforce that board policy, you're given some latitude. We could certainly define each of those, which isn't unusual, I'm finding in our board policies. There's a definition of dependent a little farther down in the policy. I apologize, I forget what letter.
I think when you take a look at that personal relationship, that
So how do you define personal relationship? Is that a really good friend? Is that?
Yeah, so in prior districts, I've seen that defined as somebody living in the household. I've also seen that defined to include cousin, where our current language wouldn't. It's simply a little more than just a relative.
And I think I understand what your intent is. I'm not sure that defines, I'm not sure what a personal relationship is. And
I think
if I'm
that-
coaching with somebody, I may have a special relationship with that person, just, how close we are and good friends and buddies. And, is that a personal relationship, or is it just a personal relationship that is something I'm not thinking of? I don't know.
I think what might help the board, if you're not comfortable adding that, is that we look at board policy related to nepotism, because we do not have a policy. And so that was my attempt to bring that nepotism piece into this conflict of interest.
Yeah, I think there's statements of that in the policies somewhere. I remember that from past years. But this personal relationship, I kind of agree with Mr. Hanson. I think that is too broad of a concept. There's many types of personal relationships that if an administrator in a building has oversight of a classroom teacher and the district hires another teacher and they are in a personal relationship, I'm not sure that would negate that administrator from having supervisory capacities over that person. I think it's a broad term. That maybe can be redefined as something else. But anybody else have any comments? Mike, what are your thoughts?
Mixed feelings. I concur with the personal relationship, with how it's defined, but at the same token, I think it's important that we have some language that defines it in fairly restrictive terms, or strict terms. So we don't get ourselves into a situation of nepotism or conflict of interest relative to ethical behavior of some sort. And I like the addition of, if it was demotion, promotion, I didn't follow it all, Mary, but I like that part of it too. I think that's important also. But I think if we struggle to define it, then we're better off probably not having it. You know, we can't define it, how can we execute it? That's just, I think that's problematic.
Well, we can certainly take this to the board and again, have this brought up as a discussion. I for one, I don't like that term. I don't like the phrase personal relationship. I think that's too broad. It opens up too many avenues. I'm not so sure that if I were in a relationship and the person was really, really good and I was an employee of the district and I was in a relationship, and my cousin was really, really going to be good, that I would want them to say, you can't apply at Manitowoc Public School District.
I think rather you'd be saying, I'm not going to be part of that hiring team.
Now, that is okay. So
Right.
that puts a whole new spin on it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if we could define that,
It's hire, transfer, or promote. So that's basically saying that administrator would be taken
we'd have to
out of the
abstain from.
mix. So for example, if it was Lincoln High School and I was the principal, Katie was an associate principal, and I had a friend apply for a job as a business ed teacher, I would basically say, Mrs. Eichmann, you're in charge of the hiring process. That's what this is saying. Yeah.
I like that.
And it's basically ensuring that that type of thing would happen.
Okay, so let's add that in there, rather than that, or personal relationship, that administrator or supervisor would have to withdraw from, however that could be worded in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and again, typically that's in a nepotism policy.
Okay,
Our district, I don't understand why, does not have that in our board policies.
yeah.
There's about 100 and some odd
It
ones.
might be one that they.
We're gonna look at it.
No,
We'll bring it. I'm sure.
But having sat all the way through court on this type of case.
Yeah.
We need something to protect ourselves related to nepotism. But again, I cannot find in our board policies.
Yeah.
And that's why, at least to protect us, thought it would be good to put here. But I can withdraw that part of the sentence and,
No, let's take it to the board and have the same discussion, and it has to be brought up to the board. And I'm certainly not gonna just send a vote for this. I think it should be brought up. And I think that it's something that can be discussed as the board and see where they wanna go with it. If there's other people that think that can be gone or maybe redefined, because we don't have set policy as you're talking about, maybe we can redefine it in this until we get set policy. So I will entertain a motion to take this change, amended proposal for policy 3011 to a vote.
So you wanted to go for a board discussion? Okay. Could we get in advance of that, see if there was a policy that we could look at for nepotism?
Well, that's a whole new,
I can bring it in June.
but let's just take care of this for the board meeting coming up. I think we can always refer back to that other policy, but this is the ethics of conflict of interest, so let's act on that one.
I was looking for a way to get her to redefine the personal relationship kind of thing. You know, so I'm assuming the board's gonna run into the same
same
thoughts that we're
discussion.
having here.
Yeah. Would it make sense to table this particular, all of it?
Do that
30
until
and-
we investigate that. If you want to make that motion, I'll accept that.
I would motion to table.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion to table this until we investigate the other policy. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Can I just get a point of clarification?
Yes.
So would the direction be for me to look into the nepotism policy, bring that in combo with this one next month?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then the second item on there, I think just we would table that as,
We'll just, take it all at once.
because it's all part of it.
It's all part of it, same policy.
Thank you.
And I'll honestly, I'll just take these back and then I'll have them ready to go for when we bring it back next month.
Thank you. I was wondering if there's somebody locally that maybe has also looked at this issue.
I could,
If there's a policy that somebody
I'm sure.
there's a
gives
policy.
us ideas.
Okay, last on the agenda for this evening is the student service staffing changes.
Mr. Shaw, I think,
Yes.
there might need to be a motion made to move the other policies forward because we only
Oh, yeah.
technically tabled
Thank
the
you,
one.
Thank you.
I would move to forward 2210 through, is it 8510 wellness?
Mhm.
To the board for approval.
Second.
Any discussion on moving those proposals to the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Now on to the new proposal for social worker introduction for student service staffing. Mr. Tennis, Ms. Eichmann, whoever wants to, Mr. Knoll, take this on.
I think it's all Katie's.
So thank you for the opportunity to get this in front of you. It's something that our team has been talking about for quite some time. You'll see we have some of our wonderful school counselors here with us today. And Lynette did a great job. Lynette Seminar, if you don't know Lynette Seminars, Lynette's our, we have general education behavior support.
Student services program
Student
support.
services program support. But she wears many hats in our district around supporting students through the student services lens. So Lynette created this document that you all have access to that shares some data about school social work programming, about some rationale and some comparables from other districts, about some, recommendations about what districts have in regard to school social workers, and various roles on student services teams. One thing, as Lee talked about at the beginning of the meeting, is our district is looking at a number of staffing issues as we're facing declining enrollment, and we're also looking at information that we receive through our school-based behavior intervention teams and our community outreach teams that we have in our district, and a variety of needs that our students and families have in our school district. And something that continues to come up is that as we are trying to better meet the needs of our students and families, and our already very full plates of our school counselors, who really should be supporting more school-based academic, social, emotional needs of students, it's become a very full plate, and we're not necessarily doing our best to meet the needs of students and families when we could consider some possible changes. So as you'll see, there's a chart that is looking at some projected future enrollments of our buildings. And we have some buildings that are on the smaller side in relation to, what types of services and full-time staff members that we have in buildings. Now, numbers, as you know, don't always equal need, so some of our smaller buildings also are home to some of our neediest students. But as we're having conversations, it's important to think about future thinking and forecasting, and how can we really get the biggest bang for our buck in regard to our student services team at large, and have the ability to provide those homelessness, community outreach, family liaison services to kids, and then allow our school counselors to really be that school-based service provider that they're trained to do. And then you'll see there's a chart comparing sort of school psychology work, school social work, and school counseling work that shows what they have in common, but it also shows where they can differentiate. So when we're thinking about our district-wide team, we have just a really comprehensive approach to students. Now, increasing, which you'll see and I'll get to in a moment, to a 3-person school social work team in a district the size of Manitowoc is not necessarily, it's not gonna totally cut the mustard, but it's a start. And it's a way to really take the staff members that we currently have on our student services team, which I'd say in front of them, we're behind their backs, are truly probably one of the most incredible teams that we have comprehensively and collectively in our district. I mean, they're incredibly hardworking and committed, and have really gone with the flow around some changes to their roles and responsibilities in the last few years, and have just done it with this care and compassion and commitment that is really second to none. So it was important, as we're looking at critical staffing moves, to also be able to try to hold on to the people that we have on our team, because we do have some licensed school social workers on our team already that could move into these roles. So the proposal is, and I'll stop talking, I promise. The proposal is based on our staffing ratios and numbers, that we transfer 1 elementary school counselor position to a district-wide school social work position. That'd be a cost-neutral move. We would transfer 1 high school counselor position to a school social work position based on projected enrollment numbers for next year. That would be a cost-neutral move. And then we would have the ability to create a 3rd school social worker position using currently a vacant student services FTE that we have that has gone unfilled. Social work through the state of Wisconsin is also reimbursed beginning the year after, so next year's team would then, that salary would be reimbursed the following year. So we would be looking at, reimbursement of full FTE plus with Lynette's position. for those following years after next year on an annual basis. And again, most importantly, what this does is this allows us to offer supports for students and families in a way that is very specific based on roles and responsibilities, and allows our school counseling team to truly focus on school-based supports and interventions. And then have some of those family connections, out of school, community-based connections, homelessness support, with the support of Lynette through her work, really taken on by that school social work team.
So technically, that reimbursement after that first year, we would get 30%. That's coming right in there, as well as psychs and special education, like monies as well, that 30% reimbursement back to the district for that position.
Some of those reimbursement rates fluctuate on an annual basis based on funding from the federal government. So right now, this is what's projected for next school year.
I see that the state has a 1:1 social worker to 250 people or 200. That would be nice to have that.
Yeah, that we won't be.
I'm not sure too many districts have that capabilities. That would certainly be nice, but our district, like many services and psychs and speech and language clinicians and all that, have always operated way above state averages, which doesn't say much, but it is a compliment to the staff who pull off the same services, because we are never and have not been anywhere close to the state recommendations in those supportive services. I'm very much in favor of this. I worked with social workers in Sheboygan the 4 years I was there. They are tremendous athlete or tremendous.
Maybe, yeah.
Some of them might be.
They are just tremendously important to schools because, and I noticed in Manitowoc County as well, the Department of Human Services is not overstaffed either. And school social workers are that approach. They are that support to our buildings. The home, the school, the community, all part of disability rationalization, as well as that important part of the home to the school. They are most valuable. They are tremendously important to the district. I wish we could go for more, so I'm very much in support of this position. And I think it's good. It's about time. Any other questions regarding this?
I just like the idea that we evaluated and saw a need and are trying to make some changes without having to go out and hire 3 people. We're going to try to do it this way first, and hopefully we see the changes paying off and see where that goes from here. But I appreciate the educators looking at stuff and going, hey, we need changes because these kids need these services. It's a good thing.
I would agree. I worry about how that person's gonna be stretched across many buildings.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're hoping to hire 3, and when we fill those positions, looking at the expertise that those people might bring to the table,
Sure.
and making sure that we don't spread them too thin, so that their services can really be a support in the buildings and the places where they're really needed, looking at our data, talking with other districts who have, similar kind of ratios, so that we don't spread them too thin and really water down their service. We have some kind of hypothetical ideas of what we might do with where we might staff them. Looking at the highest need buildings, buildings who have the most, thinking about our elementary schools who have the most sections, and those school counselors who might need a little bit more support with some of the high needs in their buildings. So as we staff that team, we'll really be looking at how to be mindful of not watering down the service, and really making sure that they're a valuable member alongside our school counselors and our school psychologists, so that they can really function as a team.
I think what you just said is tremendously important. And as we take a look and I'll use Washington to Lincoln, Washington Middle School to Lincoln, for example, you have a family that's in need of services, social services, that loop from the middle school to the high school with the services and not flip-flopping it all over the place and having to readjust is going to be horrendously important. And the staff will be just fantastic at carrying that service from one building to another because the communication in the district is going to be phenomenal.
And so often they're siblings too, right?
Correct. You get the family connection rather than just that individual kid, which is really super. Any other questions or comments? I need a motion then to accept the proposal for student service staffing, social work.
I make a motion to approve the staffing for social workers, plural, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion passed. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for a great meeting. Any other questions?
Mr. Shaw, one thing that I would like to just discuss is for a regular committee time, does this particular time work for people, or were you interested in looking at another date and time for committee meetings, given this is the first one with the new structure? I mean, if
This
it
is good
works,
for me. I
okay,
mean,
great.
carries.
It works for us too, because again, the timing of the committees being this week and then the regular meeting next week, it really does lend itself to a pretty good system of.
Dr. Trask is the chair. I mean, he can change it, but it's fine with me.
He was available at this time.
Okay.
He was part of that committee, so. Okay,
Yeah,
great. We'll
that's
keep him at the same slot. Thanks.
Thank you. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all.
Good job.
Thank you for you guys for all your support.
Thanks, Counselor.
Thank you guys.
Yes, thank you.